la 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 la. Okay. Hi guys. How are you doing? How are you doing? How are you? Are you okay? I hope you're keeping well. Is this a letter? I'm writing you a letter. If you are new to the channel, hi, I'm Emma. I have written, illustrated and self-published 2 books so far in the Luna the Space Leopard series, and my daughter Lily actually helped me write the plot to these. And the first one has since been published by Bumblebee. That's why it looks a little bit different now, so if you ordered one, that's the one that you would get. I'm working on the 3rd book now in this series. So in today's video, I thought I would just talk you through the whole process from start to finish, the good, the bad and the ugly, all the things that I've learnt along the way. I started all of this about 2.5 years ago now. So if you watch this video, I can save you like 2.5 years of mistakes. And I think a lot of these points that I'm going to cover today actually apply to pretty much any creative venture. As this is an art channel, I am also going to be illustrating one of my pages in book 3 because I have kind of been slacking lately. I've just been putting all of my creativity into YouTube, and it's been a few months, if I'm honest, since I worked on the book. So yeah, I need to get back on track. It also kind of breaks up the incessant rambling that I'm going to be doing. So I'm about halfway through the 3rd book now. So yesterday I worked out the composition for the next page and I drew out the outlines. So I shall show you a quick time lapse of that and I'll keep nattering. So I generally prefer to start off drawing on the tablet because I'm not really sure of the composition yet. I can just very easily throw down lines and shapes and move them, resize them, delete them until something starts to take shape. It's very much a trial and error process. I think a lot of people would prefer to storyboard all of their rough ideas for like the entire book at the start, but I personally prefer to take it 1 page at a time because it just feels less overwhelming that way. And if I have different ideas as I go, then nothing's set in stone. There's a bit more kind of flexibility. I have already written the whole story, but I find that part usually only takes a couple of days. It's the illustration that's the most time consuming. And it actually takes me about a year at the moment to finish each book, like alongside other life commitments. I am still relatively new to digital art, so I'm still kind of learning as I go. I think you could really see that in book 1. The drawings do kind of improve as you go through the pages. In the past, I used to do more like pet portraits and wildlife art using traditional materials like pen and watercolour. But I did have big chunks of my life where I've just taken complete breaks from art. But I have attempted all sorts of art ventures over the years. Nothing has ever been particularly successful, not gonna lie. So once I was done on the tablet, I transferred the drawing onto my PC so that I could do the rest on Photoshop. Now for sending files from one device to another, I actually use an app called Local Send. Not sponsored, it's genuinely just a really helpful app because you can send documents across your Wi-Fi connection rather than via email or cables. There is another really handy app as well called Super Display. You do need a cable for that, but I'll use my tablet as a second screen to my PC rather than having to buy a second monitor. And I do use that quite a lot because I like to check how I previously drew the characters to make sure that I'm drawing them consistently. I also use this STREAMDECK, which I borrowed off my husband, and you can basically set it up so that it's shortcut buttons for Photoshop, and it's just really kind of streamlined the whole process. But again, not sponsored. Just if you are doing similar kind of stuff, these things might be of use to you. I generally prefer the brushes on Photoshop to the tablet. They seem to have better pressure sensitivity and they just look more like a line drawn using actual traditional materials. I do really have an issue on here though with the lines not going where I want them to go. I don't find that so much on the tablet. It might be because the drawing pad is really old now. It is probably 15 years old. I should probably upgrade. Or maybe it's just me, I don't know, but that's why I'm pressing undo so much. So now we're at the stage where it's ready for colouring, highlighting and shading, which is what I'm gonna do today. Let's fire up the PC. Ooh, different camera angle. You can actually see how I've slightly destroyed my sofa there, because I tend to sit in that corner with my feet up, drawing on my tablet, and I've just somehow done that to it. You can't normally see it because I'm normally sitting slightly over there when I'm at the overhead camera. Okay, so this is the page so far. I shall just give you a little explanation of what's going on here, because you're probably like, eh. So this is little Aurora, and she is actually a new character, and she is Luna and Io's little sister, because you may have noticed at the end of book 2, Mom was expecting. So Aurora and Chip have managed to find themselves stranded on another planet, and they have met BB. And I actually sculpted BB in a previous video to try and help me sort of wrap my head around how she looks three-dimensionally. And she started off kind of scary at first, but she's actually lovely. Don't judge a book by its cover, guys. They've been having lots of fun, but Chip is kind of the responsible adult in the situation. And he's like, we should really get back because everyone's going to be worrying about us. They're heading down the mountain because they need to find the gem that they dropped, because that might be their only way back. So I'm going to open up another page so that I can sample the colours from it to make sure that they're consistent throughout the book. This was the last page. Actually, when it comes to colours, I'd really recommend oversaturating them and over-exaggerating your shadows and highlights, because some of the colours and shadows do kind of get lost in the print. And Bumblebee have actually brightened them up. I don't know if you can see there, just like Luna's yellow fur is much brighter on the Bumblebee version. When I self-published book 2, I just made sure to really bump everything up. But even still, like, I probably should have gone further. So for book 3, I'm really like ramping up those colours. So some truths or things that you may want to consider before publishing your own book. I'm multitasking here, I'm not great at multitasking. I've kind of put 10 points together. Point number 1, or question number 1, why? Why do you want to do this? Is it because you have seen videos on YouTube saying that it's a really easy get rich quick scheme? If so, quit now. Sorry to break it to you, but that was just clickbait. So I'm going to be very honest now, possibly too honest. Would you like to know how much I have made on book 2 since I self-published it on Amazon about 4 or 5 months ago? Oh, my bunting keeps falling down. I should probably use something stronger than masking tape. Okay, I'm gonna have to stick that back up, 1 sec. This is probably part of the reason why my sofa's like that, because I'm always climbing up there, fixing the bunting. Okay, I think that just added to the suspense there. Would you like to know how much I've made on book 2? Have a guess. Maybe 10,000? Lower. 1,000? Lower. 10? Lower. I have made a grand total of, drum roll please, £3.76. I mean, maybe it's because it's kind of the second book in a series, but you don't actually need to have read the first one to enjoy the second one. Maybe the whole series thing is slightly a mistake. You don't very often get picture book series. But what about the first book? I hear you cry. Did that do any better? Well, I did have this one self-published on Amazon for a year. I don't know how, but I somehow managed to sell 30 copies, which doesn't sound great, but compared to the second one, that's pretty good. But for the last 6 months, it has been published by Bumblebee. And that was a traditional contract, which means that I didn't have to pay anything. And they did very kindly send me 25 free copies. But when it's published, you have to wait about 6 months before you get a report telling you how many you sold. And I was actually feeling really optimistic because it was on like W.H. Smith's website, Waterstones, and just on like loads of book websites, even ones in like New Zealand and in all different languages. So I was like, oh. And I actually got my first royalties document 2 days ago. So in 6 months, that one made a whopping, hold on to your hats, £1.70. So in the past 2 years, I have made a grand total of £32.24. I'm sure a lot of people go into this and don't sell a thing. But bearing in mind that each one took about 300 hours each, it works out at approximately 5p an hour, I think. And that is why I'm still a cleaner, because I can make more in 2 hours of cleaning than I can in 2 years of art. So anyone who claims that they made like 100,000 overnight, creating a book that took them like an hour to put together, probably using AI, probably already had a really large fan base that they sold them to, or they just had contacts, because it just doesn't go like that for most people. You might make money from it one day. It's kind of like a really long unpaid apprenticeship with no guarantee that there's going to be a job at the end of it. So now we've got that out of the way. Point number 2, writing the story. First off, you are going to want to work out the basic plot and the length of your story, whether it's going to be rhyming. And my advice with this part would be, think like a kid. Or if you know one or you have one, talk to a kid. You really need to rekindle that childlike imagination of yours if you want a really original story. So when I started out, I actually spoke to my daughter and I said to her, I want to write a story. What should I write about? She instantly responded, a yellow leopard that goes through a portal and meets a purple leopard. And I was like, okay. No matter how obscure the idea sounds, just go with it. And we did actually come up with the plot for book 2 at this stage as well. That meant that I could actually leave some Easter eggs in book 1, ready for book 2. If you get the books and you find them, let me know what you think they are. I shan't spoil it. I wanted to make the story rhyming. For me personally, they're the stories that I prefer to read. I just love how they flow, and I think it just makes reading more fun. The process of like making it rhyme, basically I just started off by writing out the plot, and then I went back and rewrote it paragraph by paragraph, rhyming. To do that, I did use the thesaurus on Word a lot to just keep trying different options. And I would also Google what words rhyme with a word. So for example, if I was trying to rhyme the word beast, and then I'd get a massive long list and I'd be like, ah yes, feast, I can work with that. And you just have to keep trying different word combinations until it rhymes. But after a day or two of doing that, you do find that you're like thinking in rhyming couplets. Okay, so point number 3, which I actually just thought I was recording and then my camera turned off. So I was just talking to myself. Point number 3, character design. You kind of want to take time to just kind of visualize. I spent a lot of time just kind of sitting, staring at a wall, sort of picturing these guys as like a little movie, kind of like a Pixar movie. But mainly you just want to get pencil to paper or stylus to tablet and just try lots of different styles. Have a look around at what's out there already. Obviously you don't want to copy it, but you can be inspired and draw elements from lots of different places. Like I'd say that I was quite heavily inspired by obviously Disney. There was also Arthur when I was a kid. Like the shape of the characters and the way that they live is very much like Arthur, because you've got like lots of different animals living together, like on that one. I think I was also inspired by Aardman, like Wallace and Gromit. I think especially with BB's character, she kind of looks like she belongs on Creature Comforts. And I don't know if I'd stick with this exact style forever. Like maybe if I create different books, it might change a little bit. This style was like my first attempt, but because it's been part of a series, I've just kind of had to stick with it. But obviously you do kind of want to have a somewhat consistent, recognizable style. But that is a lot of pressure when it's like your first book to choose a style that you're supposed to stick with forever. I did have a go at trying to draw these guys using traditional materials, but I just felt like the ideas that I had in my mind were just too complex to create traditionally. There's quite a few scenes where there's just so much going on, and if I just needed to move one character slightly to the left, if you've drawn it by hand, you've got to like start again, use Tipex, I don't know. Point number 4, page size and shape. So when I started book 1, I didn't really check what size page I should be working on or what DPI. When I went to self-publish it, it was just an absolute nightmare. It took me absolutely ages to go through every single page, resizing it, making sure that it fit. So my advice would be go onto the go onto the KPD, Kindle Direct, no, KDP, Kindle Direct Publishing website, and you will find on there all of the different information that you'll need to make sure that you are creating the right size documents from the start. So that's what I did for book 2, and it was much quicker. Point number 5, establish a routine. If you want to create something that you feel like truly proud of, and you're not planning on just getting AI to do it for you, please don't do that, then it's going to take a while. You are going to want to set aside like a set amount of time every week. If you just keep chipping away, it just kind of accumulates. Now, don't get me wrong, there were times where like I went weeks or months without working on it. It happens. There were also big chunks of time where I had got into a really good routine of just doing about half an hour or an hour before the kids woke up, before the school run. Yes, progress was slow, but I was getting like 1 or 2 pages done a week. And yes, your motivation will ebb and flow. Sometimes it will just completely be gone. I'd recommend doing stuff like what I'm doing now, like just the really kind of low brain power, just like colouring. And then when you're properly feeling like in the zone, that's when you want to get the really creative stuff done, like writing the story, drawing out compositions. Whatever you find easy, do that when you're feeling like meh, and whatever you find hardest, do that when you're in the zone. Point number 6, be open to learning new skills. It can be a very humbling experience when you realise that you actually don't possess the skills required to produce your vision. I was so used to drawing from references, I got quite good at it, and I naively thought to myself, how hard can illustration be? But I soon began to realise creating something from nothing is a completely different kettle of fish to copying something that already exists. Also, I was switching to digital art. That kind of made me feel like I was having to learn how to draw all over again. I felt like I was actually getting worse at art. And I'm pretty sure that like my followers on Facebook and Instagram, I'm pretty sure they were like, what is this? The likes plummeted. But the reality is that I'd actually become complacent in what I was doing before and had just plateaued with my development as an artist. And now I was actually branching out, trying new things and challenging myself. I was actually learning a lot, like about perspective, colour theory, character design. I was actually improving faster than I had done in ages, even though outwardly it didn't look like it. You have to kind of accept the fact that your work isn't going to be perfect when you're learning something new. But that's why on my YouTube, I love trying lots of different materials, like working with clay, doing the create this book, because that's what's actually going to challenge me to develop as an artist. Point number 7, your book, your vision. When you're working on something like this, you are naturally going to talk to friends and family and ask for their advice. They're all going to have their own differing opinions on what makes a good book. And it can be really helpful, but at the end of the day, you can't please all of the people all of the time, because if you tried to, you would just end up with like really generic, grey, unoriginal, boring mush. It's your story and it reflects your unique life experiences, and that's what gives it soul. Number 8, the pros and cons of self-publishing on KDP. So let's start off with the cons list. Amazon won't promote your book. You're going to need to direct the traffic to it yourself. Literally no one will find it otherwise. We also need to ask the question, it sounds kind of brutal, but why would anyone buy your book over one written by Julia Donaldson or Roald Dahl or David Williams? They are amazing quality. They have things like glitter. The print quality is gorgeous. I mean, there's even glitter on all of the pages. Like that one, it's got like the shiny foil. The same with the Gruffalo. I don't know if you can see there, but they've even made the Gruffalo kind of with the shinier sort of print. Same with this one. Like if you're a celebrity, you can obviously afford some of the best illustrators in the world. You've got like hardback books with cutouts, like pop-up type books. And then you've got the ones that are made via KDP and they just aren't as good quality and the cost is usually more. They've just got more credibility because people have heard of them. Even like a celebrity who was never an author before, because they've done the legwork elsewhere, then the publishers will pretty much always take on their work because they know it will sell. The Hungry Caterpillar, a board book, only £4. Another £4 Julia Donaldson one. There's David Williams, £4.50. And these are £6.99, and that's a pretty standard price for the self-published ones because they're not mass produced. The KDP ones are usually just printed on demand. And I don't know how long I would need to scroll for before I found Luna the Space Leopard. Probably like 10 years. So to do that, you would have to boost your online presence. You'll need to do readings in schools, in libraries, bookshops, but they might not even be interested. Over the last few months, I've tried contacting all of the local bookshops and libraries in my area and they haven't replied. I guess I've just got to keep trying. But that all takes time and it takes resilience to keep getting back up. Creative people aren't always natural business people. Like, I personally find it really hard to approach people and be like, buy my book. But in life, if you don't ask, you don't get. So we've got to get over that. And on that note, don't forget to hit that subscribe, guys. But yeah, it just feels horrible even asking. I just realized I've not actually drawn for ages. Oh, I'm getting so hot. Open the door. So, the pros of self-publishing. It doesn't cost anything. So a lot of publishers charge a fee for a vanity or hybrid contract. So vanity is where you pay for everything. Hybrid is where the publishers pay a bit, you pay a bit. And traditional is where you don't pay anything. It's actually really hard to get a traditional contract, especially with like a well-known publisher. A lot of the time there isn't even a way to submit your work. So if you go onto like Penguin website trying to find a way to submit your work on there just isn't. You've basically got to hire a literary agent. KDP makes publishing available to everybody. And self-publishing on Amazon is relatively quick and simple. It does take a day or two on KDP for them to do their basic checks, but you'll have it up there for sale within a few days. You are your own boss. You don't need to work to anybody else's timescales or ideas. And obviously it isn't the best possible way of publishing a book, like if you want it to look its best or sell its best, but it's a step in the right direction. By putting your name out there, you do have a small chance of success. But if you don't put your name out there or your work out there, then you have 0% chance. And if you do have a lot of friends and family or a following who buy your book and they leave you positive reviews, that can obviously help you if you do approach publishers, because if they see that lots of people enjoy your books, then they might be more inclined to take you on. It feels good to see your book as a physical copy on your shelf or to gift to friends and family. You can order yourself some copies at a reduced price. I think it's something like 30% less, but don't hold me on that. And you could use them for readings, signings, selling at craft fairs. You do get a bigger royalties percentage per sale. Another good thing as well is that it's still yours to do with as you wish, as long as you buy yourself your own ISBN and don't use Amazon's free one. So I think I bought like 10 ISBNs and it was like £100 or something. There's websites where you can get those. And Amazon obviously completely dominates the book market. Tip number 9, who is your market? So I think that I made the mistake of making these books for kids. Hear me out. Who are the people that actually buy the books? It's not the kids. It's the parents, it's the grandparents. And I have since realised a lot of books out there are actually very beige. And that's because that's what grown-ups are drawn to. They'll go with their neutral aesthetic and they'll just look more tasteful as a gift. So in the future, I might need to think about making my front covers a bit more beige, but then I can make the inside as crazy and vibrant as these ones so that the children actually enjoy it. Okay, so point number 10. It's going to take more than one book. For example, Julia Donaldson, she has written over 200 books. I could probably, at a push, name like 10. If you want to get anywhere with this, then you've got to hustle for like absolute years. There really is no such thing as overnight success. It's just the ones that kept going through the knockbacks, through the slow progress, through spending more money than they're making, that eventually break through while all the others give up and kind of drop off. Now that we have social media, I think that makes it even harder than ever to keep a positive mindset. With YouTube, for example, you could spend 30 hours on a video and put your absolute heart and soul into it, and it might only get like 25 views. You might see somebody else's subscriber count absolutely skyrocketing while yours is absolutely flatlining. Comparison is the thief of joy, and with social media it's easier than ever to compare, and that alone can be enough to make anybody quit. I mean, if you look at it logically, it's actually kind of irrational to keep going. Everyone thinks that you're crazy until it works, and then they think you're a genius. I actually have a bonus tip for those that stuck around for this long listening to me ramble. Tip number 11, and it's actually the most important tip. Find alternative metrics for success. If we rely solely on how much money we've made or how many likes we get, then we're probably going to quit after a month or two. You're going to need something more than that. My metrics for success: asking myself questions like, am I improving as an artist? Am I making my kids proud? They love standing up and reading the story to everyone in their class, which is a great confidence booster for them. The ones that we donated to the school are always in high demand to be borrowed. And I even hear my kids, when they can't sleep, reading the book. So it's encouraging them to practice their reading skills. Do other kids enjoy them? My husband's friend actually sent him a video of his daughter. She was kind of face planted on the floor, crying, "Space leopard," because she was refusing to go to bed until her dad read Luna the Space Leopard one more time. Apparently she won't go anywhere without them now, and they're like really dog-eared and falling to bits. I'm making book 3 for her and for my kids. Am I getting to know people in the art community? Yes. I think especially through YouTube, I've had some amazing discussions with people who live thousands of miles away that I never would have had the opportunity to get to know if it wasn't for this journey. Do I enjoy the process? I'm like constantly in that flow state and the days just zoom past. Am I expressing myself? I've created my own little universe with these books that no one else in the world has created. Is it a productive use of time rather than just doom scrolling? I'd say so. Have I become more resilient to knockbacks and learned to believe in myself even when others don't? Yes. And the positive list goes on. Right, I've laid down some of the basic colours on here. I'm going to crack on with this and I shall catch up with you shortly. The shadow of the tree moving. Looks like somebody about to come in the door. Freaked me out a little bit. Yeah, I'm gonna have to close that. It's very distracting. So I'm really happy with how that page has turned out. It's been really good to get back on it. This has been quite a different video today. It was kind of verging on a TED Talk. Let me know if you enjoyed this format of more like a deep discussion, or if you found it just really boring. I'm resilient now, I can take it. And I think making this video has helped me process the sales report figures because it's given me something to talk about. I could have just spiraled from that point. I could have got that report and just been like, what's the point? But I've tried to turn it into something constructive. instead. So I needed to make this video for myself as much as anybody else. If you genuinely enjoy art, then don't give up, guys. The world needs creativity. Imagine life without storybooks and movies and music, all the things that bring joy and soul into the world. So please don't give up. Keep going. I will too, and I shall see you next week. BB says bye.